Morning everybody, how you doing? Welcome back to the Spurs Talk Show. I am Sean Butler. There she is, superstar of the show, Bugsy Malone. Not enjoying this weather, it's horrible today, but we got to get on. We have to get on. Tottenham need to get on, guys. We've got 13 days until the window shuts. About 11 players, give or take, that you could make an argument for leaving the club in some fashion. You could certainly make an argument for bringing in anything from between 2 to 5 players, depending on how desperate you feel we are and how necessary they are to get them all done in one window. And for the most part, this week has been a fairly quiet week with transfer rumours that are substantive or that have chances to materialise. But today, for what it's worth, well, over the course of yesterday, since the last video I did, and this morning, there's a lot of articles that are coming out with stories that include different names. And if one of them is true, then I guess it could give more credence to the other. Because yesterday and all this week there's been some links with some players that don't really make much sense given the shape of our squad already. But with noise and news that I've seen this morning, maybe if there is truth to it, then some of it may materialise. But with the bottleneck that we seem to have at the top, the inability to get any of these deals done quickly, and with a current ratio required of about 1 transfer every day in order to make ends meet with the squad, I find it highly unlikely we're going to get anything like all the business done. But we're going to discuss the latest transfer news, views and clues right now. Guys, please do me a favour, smash the like button for me on the video like you always do. Smash the subscribe on the channel if you haven't already. We're just about to hit 15,200 on the march to 15,300. And hit the notification bell and drop a comment. Let me know your thoughts, of course, on today's topic. Let's start with the outgoings. There's a lot to get through, so I'm going to have to try and speed through some of this in order to not make the video 20 minutes long. But we'll start with Davinson Sanchez. Go on, Bugs, go see those birds. Davinson Sanchez. News out that I think he is the most advanced conversation that's apparently happening with any of our centre-backs. Monaco, who are doing bits this window, Monaco are very active, moving players in, moving players out. They are looking for a potential link-up with Davinson Sanchez. I'm not sure what the money was touted as being. I think it might have been about 10 to 15 million, which to me is all right money for a player at his stage of his contract. His general usefulness for Tottenham, I think generally the apathy towards him as a player has kind of obviously gone in one direction, mainly from last season, but a lot of people haven't liked him for a while in a Tottenham shirt. For what it's worth, this pre-season he has very much stepped up and looked like, and in fact against Brentford, the best of the rest. And to me it's a weird scenario to find ourselves in, that a bid is coming in for a player that, unless we have the ability and the willingness to go and replace 2 centre-backs, which I just don't think is going to happen, then I'll be entirely honest, I would much rather not sell him and move on, someone like Eric Dier ahead of him. But there isn't any kind of, at least, noise regarding Eric Dier that's meaningful to talk about. There's a number of clubs apparently across Europe, across Portugal, across Spain and across the Premier League or the English system that are interested in him, but nothing meaningful. No names have really been mentioned, no discussions are being had. And he's another player that's in his last year of his contract, so I don't know what sort of fee we would get, but at this stage I'm not really worried too much about the fees for coming in players. I'd rather just hurry the process up. I think that could be one of the reasons why there isn't anything going on with regards to these players, is because Daniel Levy is still desperately trying to hang on and wait until he can get a number. But you know what, there's consequences to your actions, and as I've seen and said before with Harry Kane, whilst I applaud him for hanging on and getting maximum value for Harry Kane, the difference in what you've made or saved by waiting 3 weeks, you're probably going to end up shelling out that in additional sums to the next team you're buying your replacement from, because they don't want to lose their best player late in the window either. So it's a bit of a false economy sometimes, depending on the situation. With regards Sanchez, you know, he's turned down 2 or 3 moves already over the last, what, 6-7 months. I think in January he turned down a move away. I don't know the reasons why, but I imagine it was because he is comfortable in London and has a decent salary and maybe wasn't going to have the same comforts or whatever wherever he was potentially off to. Obviously this summer there's been rumours of him going to Turkey and to Russia. Both of those, we don't really know too much about the Galatasaray deal, whether it was true or not, or whether it was the Turkish media representing a story that was more advanced than it really was. But the Spartak story seemed to be true, and I personally don't have any problems with Davinson Sanchez turning down a move to Russia, given the current kind of environment and what's going on in that part of the world. Moving on, so those two, well, that Davinson Sanchez story is one potential story that's moving on, but we're waiting to find out how Monaco feel if they actually do present a bid and where we actually go from there. I think at the moment it's at the verbal stage, not at the written stage. Perhaps, just perhaps, Davinson Sanchez might see a nicer, more comfortable existence in a tax-free part of the world, a beautiful part of the world that is Monte Carlo. Hugo Lloris, finally, the story that we thought would have been over and done with at the start of the window, at the start of pre-season. He wasn't invited to go onto the tour. He was allowed to stay at home to get his next move organised. Doesn't look like he's done much in the way of getting that done. I guess why would you rush when you're getting paid 100 grand a week and most of the clubs that are looking for you or looking at you are not going to be paying you that same money? It turns out right now that the story has emerged that Lazio are in fact a club who are interested in bringing him in. Sarri, the manager, is a little bit worried about bringing him in to play number 2 to their number 1 goalkeeper, whose name escapes me. But the president of Lazio sees the experience of Hugo Lloris as a valuable asset. The problem is, the stumbling block is of course the salary. I think Hugo gets about 100 grand a week, give or take, at Tottenham. He'll get nothing like that at Lazio. Lazio are a club with financial issues and also the calibre of wages. The precedents of wages in Italian football are generally, you know, about 50% of what you would get in the English setup. So it turns out today, at least according to reports, that Hugo Lloris is willing to take a pay cut in order to make the move happen, and is willing to go and sit on the bench and play more as a kind of leadership figure in the dressing room, and bring that experienced kind of steady head. I don't know, some of these adjectives that you would describe someone of Hugo Lloris's experience, I don't necessarily think always align up to the man himself. But anyway, he might be going to Lazio, which is interesting. So that would be 2 players out of the door. We are still waiting to hear any official confirmation from Atletico Madrid around Pierre-Emile Hojbjerg. We're still waiting from Sociedad for any official confirmation or any verbal bid for Serge Reguilon. But an interesting one that came up today, and this is where I'm going to end, I think, the outgoings story and then move to the incomings, is in Giovanni Lo Celso. Apparently he is pushing for a move to Napoli. Napoli are interested in him, and he would love to go over there and be a part of that team to get back into the Champions League and obviously try and defend their title. Look, I don't know if it's true or not. I think it came from 90 Minutes, which is generally I wouldn't call them an aggregator or a clickbait. I mean, I think they're kind of a little bit more serious than that, I think. I could be wrong. Maybe I'm confusing them with someone else. But that's where I saw the story. And then it was also, they were quoting previous stories that were not exactly aligned, that were coming from the Independent and the Telegraph about Napoli's interest in Tottenham players. So I don't know if it's got substance to it. Where I would find it weird is that we've just signed Alejo Veliz, and I'm pretty sure I read somewhere that Alejo Veliz said that Lo Celso is going to be his kind of chaperone whilst he's here and is going to help him settle in. So if that's true, then I would imagine the story isn't. If the story is true and Veliz's, what he said was true at the same time, then is Lo Celso reneging on that promise? Is he going, you know what, an opportunity's come up, sorry bro, you'll be fine? And if so, how's that going to unsettle Alejo Veliz? You know, it's going to be obviously difficult, and maybe then the responsibility lands on QT Romero and other players from the South American contingent to help out. Not the end of the world if it's true, but it'd be interesting. The reason why I want to now pivot from Lo Celso's potential exit is because of the incomings. There's lots of sort of stories this week regarding players like Eberechi Eze, who, you know, Tottenham are allegedly very interested in. Everybody's talking, all of the main outlets are talking that Tottenham are interested in Eberechi Eze. And I've been sort of saying, look, fantastic player, wonderful player. Of course you'd love to have him in your squad. Of course you'd love to have him, you know, English, homegrown, amazing talent, can play in the 8, can play on the left, can kind of play in the 10, even though I don't think he's a technical 10. Just a wonderful bag of talent, and if you could get him for 65 million, if money wasn't an object, if we had owners that had a better risk profile where they were happy to spend the money now and figure it out later because that's an asset that in all likelihood will go up over time, etc., then I'd be on board it. But when I know the owners that we do have and that want us to always spend the money that we create from internally in the club, they don't want to put more money in as risk, which, you know, is a frustration for many, but it is what it is. Then I don't think we should be spending 70 million on Eze alone. Where I think maybe the story has some legs is if there is truth to the idea that Hojbjerg is going to go to Atletico Madrid and that Lo Celso also wants out and goes to Napoli. If those two can combine, bring in 55, 60, 65 million quid, then obviously you're definitely going to need another midfielder. And, you know, you can make the argument still that you should be going for a 6, but then has Bissouma proven to everybody that actually he's far more capable in the 6 than someone like myself initially presumed him to be. I thought he was better suited as an 8 where you could really unleash. I still think he's better suited in an 8, but he can definitely do the job of a 6. Can Ollie Skip do it? Can Pape Sarr do it as well? Maybe, just maybe, we have enough talent in that in that area of the pitch to get us through for now. Can't fix everything in one window. And then if you were to lose Lo Celso and Hojbjerg, then maybe you put that money into getting one player out of the squad, or getting 2 players out of the squad. You're bringing 1 player in, so you've got that 1 net deficit, which is good, and you've also upgraded and got someone like Eze. And then that shouldn't really take away from the money that you've still got left over from Harry Kane's sale to replace Harry Kane, and also go again in the defenders market. Talking about replacing Harry Kane, the story that's out yesterday that I don't really give too much credibility to is Folarin Balogun, the Arsenal player who was playing for Reims, I think it was, last year. Was it Reims or Rennes? Reims. I never know how you say that club's name. I think it's Reims. 28 goals. No, 21 goals scored. XG of 28. Don't overlook the deficit there. It's important. For me, look, I think the player is a talented player. I do. I think he's got a good footwork. I think he can move the ball, shift the ball quickly with his right foot and his left foot. He's got a good ping on him, for sure. I would also say, though, that there's probably 3 or 4 reasons why I don't want it to happen. I don't think it should happen. One is, I think his first touch is really poor. He gives the ball away like 3 times a game. And, you know, it's not... it's kind of like the touch of Richarlison, right? Just unreliable, a bit heavy, and good opportunities break down. And that is in no small part sometimes the reason why, though, the gap, the 7-goal difference. He scored 21 goals, right? 20-goal a season guy in French League, playing for an okay team, not a great team. Okay, you know, fine, like, it's a good start. You're a young guy, great start to your career. But you should have scored 28. You should have scored 28. And sometimes that deficit, or the surplus, you have to then go and dive into, using the Y-Scout tool, go and figure out which were the games where he exceeded or didn't on the XG differential. Go and dive into those particular chances and see why was he expected to score more than he actually did, or the other way around. And for me, when I look at Balogun in detail, I think that you can see that he's sloppy. He can be very sloppy, and his concentration for me is not on point. Like, I think he gets ahead of himself a little bit, and I just don't think he's worth the money, which is apparently Arsenal are going to ask £50 million for him based on 1 good year in France. Not for me. Of course, the overriding factor as well to put this into the no bucket is the fact that he's Arsenal, and that Arsenal and Tottenham don't do business. The last time we ever did direct business was Sol Campbell, and even that was forced because of the free transfer. Yes, we've traded players before that have kind of played for both teams in William Gallas and those sorts of types, but direct relationship trading never really happens. So I'd be incredibly surprised if it did. £50 million for me is way too much, and if I'm honest, the player, whilst he looks handy and could definitely improve, don't necessarily think he's anything like a £50 million striker, and I think if we were to get him, we would be regretting it in a year or two's time. Another name though that has been mentioned is Jeremy Doku, the Belgium player. Listen, I love this kid. I remember playing against him. I remember watching him play against us 2 or 3 years ago in the Europa League, when he was about 18, and I was just blown away by his technicalities, the speed of his footwork. Absolutely insane. A little bit like an Adama Traore type, a little bit like a Saint Maximum type. Just incredible pace, incredible acceleration, incredible technicalities. I think he could do faster step overs than probably anybody in the game. I think he got 7 goals last year in 25 games. I think he plays for Reims. So I forget who Balogun played for. Listen, I'll put it on the text. I'm sorry, my mind's a bit fuzzy this morning. But yeah, so Doku got I think it was 7 goals and 4 or 5 assists last year in 25 games, playing as a left winger. To me, I think he's a phenomenal talent. I always have done. Still, I don't necessarily know if he's got that end product. A lot of these players that have got, you know, the incredible fast twitch fibres in their legs have this ability to do these step overs and stuff. But sometimes I think that maybe their brain isn't quite working as fast as their footwork is, and it becomes more on instinct. And then ultimately, sometimes the moves break down. And I would say that, you know, with Doku, similar to a lot of these other players I've just mentioned, there is that kind of question mark over the final product. But he is young, he is super talented, and as a player that I think will just add something different. Terrifying player. You know, a player you bring off the bench, and I think that's the way you would use him at Tottenham. You get more options. We don't have that much sort of diversity on our width. We have Solomon, Decky and Sonny, really that's it. I mean, there's diversity in their individual talents, and I think that that's important, but someone like Doku is someone incredibly different, and if you're chasing a game or if you're winning a game and you want to bring someone on who can just break and terrify the defence on the counter at times, I think that this is the guy you go for. £50 million is what's quoted. I personally think it's a bit of a stretch, but the market is what it is. I don't think he's £50 million worth of player yet. I think he's £50 million worth of potential for sure. He's 21. This guy could become anything. But he is a powder keg of explosiveness and something that you love to see. Exciting, bums on seats type of acquisition, and for sure an asset that I think would probably appreciate over the length of his contract. So I'm all for it. You know what, guys? I think that's about it. In terms of transfer news, I don't want to be going too much longer. It's a long video already. Evan Ferguson again being mentioned today, but like I said 2 or 3 days ago, the chairman of Brighton has already come out and said we're not selling him for 5 years. So, you know, forget about it. Essentially, Tottenham have still inquired but got rejected. So we're going to carry on with the search. What I would say, guys, is all of these names that we're looking at do not include a defender. They do not include a right back. I don't know whether we should be reading into that, and that Ange and Daniel Levy have had a conversation, or whoever, Paratici or Gavanini, have had a conversation and saying, if we have to go in one direction with the rest of the money, do you want attack or do you want defence support? You know, maybe that's it, because all of the rumours right now are replacing Harry Kane, and for midfielders to replace players that haven't even left yet. If we do sell Sanchez, we need another centre-back. Even if we don't sell Sanchez, I still would argue we need a utility player. You know who my pick is for utility and versatility. Gertrude, I think he's an absolute a powder keg of potential as well. A player that's going to appreciate in value and that can play all across the back line and in fact in the 6. So if you were to go and get him, you cover for the Emerson issues. You cover for a centre-back should either of the top two go down injured. He can play on the left and he can play on the right side. And of course, you can also then play him in the 6, which means that if you do sell Hojbjerg and you also sell Lo Celso, then you are well within your rights to go and get a powerhouse midfielder like Eberechi Esse that can set up the club for the next, 5-6 years. Many options. Lots to talk about. I'll be back at 4 o'clock today for a Manchester United preview game with Dave from the Irish Hotspur and a couple of others. I'll see you soon, guys. Let me know how your thoughts are on this video. Like, subscribe and comment. And as always, bye-bye.